Welcome back. I've got Catherine Mitchell online. Catherine, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing really, really well. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a bit because you do a lot of great work helping businesses. So why don't you share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Well, yes, thank you so much. So, my name is Catherine Mitchell. I am actually respectfully referred to as Miss Cat. I am the owner of Miss Cat Consulting, and our signature program is our concept to company program where we help aspiring entrepreneurs take their idea and launch it and take it to the next level. So, thank you for having me.
Oh, great to have you here. And that's important work because we see so many people want to launch their own business and they have an idea of what they want to do, but they really don't have any idea on what it takes to actually, one, launch a business, but then secondly, how do we keep it running? They just think, I've got this great idea, and they talk with friends and colleagues. They say, yeah, that's a great idea. You should do it. And it may be a great idea. It might be helping something or filling a void that we have in the economy or in business or whatever. But there's a lot to it. And a key component of that is obviously funding. And many people use the greater bank of family and friends and their own funds, and they put it in there, and they realize that it costs a lot of money to start a business. Not as much as you think, because a lot of people think, oh, it's going to cost me millions to launch it. Well, depending on what you're making, okay, maybe, but usually not. It's but what happens, and love your thoughts on this. I think a lot of new entrepreneurs struggle and think that they have to do everything, so they get everything that they need before they've even made a single product or service. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Most definitely, and that is a great point. And I think first things first, a lot of times people don't understand the value of having a mentor or coach because that alone could save you a substantial amount of money or help you make the right choices to decide, okay, right now all you need is this. So versus going out getting every single bell and whistle that you see on YouTube or TikTok, you can, be guided through that process. So, okay, phase one is this, phase two is this, so on and so forth. In regards to funding, a lot of times the reason why most businesses can't get funding is because they're not structured properly. They start off, wrong. So because again, a lot of times you have an idea but you don't know how to implement the idea, and that's kind of, I won't say we kind of set ourselves up for failure before we even launch. So that's why for me personally, I just advocate for getting a coach, a mentor, especially if you can find someone in the niche or the area that you're looking to go into, so that way you can not only avoid those costly mistakes that it may take, like if you make the wrong move, but like you said, instead of getting everything up front, knowing, okay, this is what I need now, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah, it's like, okay, eventually I want to have this 6 bedroom house, and you're a single person and you don't need the 6 bedrooms right now. You need a studio would be sufficient, maybe 1 bedroom, depending on, what you do if you have people over. So you're not, hiding your bed because it's in the middle of your living room, which is also your bedroom and everything else. But I think businesses time and time again, not only from, what are you getting and acquiring, what tools are you using, but, the structure of your business. Is it incorporated? Is it an LLC? What are the tax ramifications of all this? There's a lot to it's quite frankly foundation. Going back to a house analogy for a second, you're not going to build a house if you don't have the foundation set up first. Well, if you build the house and there's no foundation, we know what's going to happen to the house. So you got to have the right foundation for you, and that's where mentors and advisors come into play. And I know the argument I get, well, they cost so much money. It's like, yeah, how much is it going to cost you to fix something if it's not set up right? What is it going to look like? And I used this example before on the show. I worked for a telco company many, many, many years ago. And I remember I was working with one of the VPs on something, and then we went into the sales VP office because he had to ask him a question. So we went in there and it ended up being a 30-minute basically doctorate lesson on doing things right. And I wasn't involved, but there was one of the salesperson's individuals made a pretty big mistake working with the client. And he told me, he said, Mike, if you take anything away from working here, is this: do things right the first time. Because if you don't, you're going to be doing it three times at least. You did it the wrong the first time. Then you're going to have to undo it. That's the second time. And then you're going to have to do it hopefully the right way, third time. Do you have time to do things three times to get it done? I'm guessing no. But I see it every day with entrepreneurs and their business launches and people in every walk of life. It's like, do it right the first time. Take the time to make sure you have everything set up so you can be successful at it. But you're spot on because, without a mentor or somebody to look to, you're aimlessly launching. Now, can you stumble on something? Possibly, but you probably have better odds winning the Powerball than you would getting things right with that. So I think that's a big big reason for it. So let's dive in a little bit into like the capital funding side of things because I know that's one of the arenas that you play in. And again, a lot of entrepreneurs don't have the first clue on how to access that. And you just mentioned a moment ago, a big reason why they don't get funding is they're not structured right. So let's say they are structured right. They had a mentor and said, okay, set this up and that. What are some of the things you see people that are successful in getting funding doing that would help the ones that aren't getting the funding, so they could potentially access that funding as well?
That's a great question. So, the first thing that I think that most people don't rely on is their relationships. So, what do I mean by that? Your banking, you obviously have a business bank account, hopefully, right? So, rather than reach around in other arenas trying to find money, why don't you start where you are recognized and where you already do business? So, I think sometimes we forget, like, hey, we have a business bank account. Let's see what options are available where we already have that relationship. Um, and then there are, like, the SBA, things of that nature, where you can find, funding. And then I think a lot of people sleep on grants. There are a lot of grants available, and things of that nature where you can get money for your business. But I hate to beat a dead horse. You just have to make sure that you're prepared. So, just a few tips, if you don't mind. So that way, once you do approach an opportunity or get access to an opportunity, that way you know that you're set up the right way. So, first things first, a lot of people, the first thing they do when they start a business is they just go get an LLC, right? And I think that's the first mistake that most people do, because a lot of times, what are you going to do? You're going to put your home address on that LLC, because a lot of people nowadays don't have a brick and mortar location. Well, guess what? When a someone who is looking to fund you, when they Google you or look you up and they see that your home is attached to your LLC, now it does not look legitimate. You have that Gmail account, doesn't look legitimate. You have your cell phone as your business, phone number, right? So there are some things that just fundamentally you need to have in place just to look legitimate enough to even be considered for funding. So first things first, you want to get of a location. Now, it doesn't have to be a brick and mortar location. There are some entities like iPostal One, Anytime Mailbox, that can provide you with a physical virtual address. So I would suggest that you start there, get an address, then get your LLC. Make sure that you have a business phone number. There are apps such as Grasshopper, Ring Central, that you can use as a business line. So that way you can detach that. And of course, you can go somewhere like GoDaddy and get a domain where you can host a not only just a website, but so rather than using a Gmail, you can have a professional email account. So not to stray away from the question, I know everybody wants the funding piece, but I think that the issue really at hand is the structure, because once you're structured correctly, you can pretty much walk into, any opportunity. Granted, if you're making, money with your business, of course there's some stipulations on that, but you could go get business credit cards, you can go get, lines of credit, so on and so forth. But there's a lot of people that I run into that don't even have a business bank account. So again, we can talk money all day, but if I look at your business, and you're using Cash App and Zelle, you know what I mean, and you don't even have a actual business bank account, we already are, like I said, starting off on the wrong foot before we even get to the bank or to that credit card or to that opportunity, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense, and it's basically presenting yourself as a legitimate business and not as somebody that's, and I'm not knocking anybody on this. It's like I have an Etsy store. Okay, great. You sell whatever on it. Awesome. That's cool. Any way you can generate revenue, that's cool. But if you're looking for capital, you got to remember these people are taking a risk on you. So they have to look and go, all right, what are you? Are you a business or are you somebody that's doing a hobby? And again, I'm not knocking anybody, but you got to be honest with yourself. And I think that's where, going back to what you said before, is getting trusted advisors and mentors. They can tell you, and you'll hopefully listen to them because you chose them to be your mentor. It's like, okay, you're my mentor. I want you to be truthful with me, even if it stings. But it's important because excuse me, uh, without it, you're going to the bank, you're looking to get money, you're probably going a lot later than you should have, and they're going to say we can't because of XYZ. And then you got to go back, you're frustrated, you're angered, no one believes in me, all of a sudden the self-doubt starts kicking in, and that impacts your ability to produce and your business and everything like that. So it's really important on what you say. So let's segue to your program, from
Mhm.
concept to company, because I think that ultimately is, once you set up your company, it makes things a lot easier. But again, a lot of people are just right now, so many listeners of my show are working for big companies or small ones, and they're done. They're like, I want to go be my own boss. I get it. I understand that feel. Believe me, I know what that feels like. And they want to do something, and they have an idea, and they've run it by a few people, and people are not being polite per se, but they're like, no, actually, that's something that I would probably buy. And like, okay, well, let's go with this. So that's, I think, where a program like yours is so helpful because it can help them through these steps. So walk us through, so what, actually, before we start with that, and you can lead into what it entails, but what motivated you to launch this? Because this is a relatively new endeavor that you've done, in addition to the other work that you're doing. So walk us through that if you could.
Yes. So, and that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking. So, I actually am, in the tax space. So I don't do taxes, but I actually own my own tax software, and I support hundreds, if not thousands, at this point, of tax professionals. And so one thing that I do with them is I coach them and mentor them on how to not just do taxes. Anybody can learn how to do taxes, but how do you run a successful tax firm at, from the business perspective. And so what I realized is that the concepts and the principles that I had been teaching my mentees on the tax side was something that people just in general needed, right? And now we're in a space in life where people are just getting laid off. So it's not even a point, do I want to have my own business. Now it's kind of almost mandatory that you have another stream of income somewhere where inflation is high, people are just getting laid off from left to right. So at the end of the day, this is kind of not necessarily mandatory, but it could be a matter of life and death for some to be able to start a new entity. And to your point, like with the individual that's working on Etsy or things of that nature, even if it's a side hustle, it can still be structured in a way to where you can go and get funding and even potentially take things to the next level, or at least help it to be a solid stream, of income, even if it is a side thing. So with Concept to Company, what we do, it, again, you can go Google how to go get an LLC. That, anybody can show you how to go get an LLC, but what happens after the LLC, right? So we not only just talk about how to do the foundational piece of the business, but we also basically help you learn how to make money with the business. Because again, with funding, it's not just a LLC and a nice structure, but you have to show that you're actually making money, with the business. So because like you said, they're taking a risk on you, and they want to be able to confirm that you will be able to, pay that loan, or what that, pay it back. So we give strategies on how to make, money with your business. And then from there, we show how to automate the business and then scale. And then we do give resources on funding, because of course, once you go through the program, you're structured, you're making money, and now, you're ready and eligible, for that next piece. So again, it's just anyone who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur, who, like you said, have an idea, and you're like, okay, I have this idea, I know that it can do something, but what do I do from here? This program is definitely for you.
And quite frankly, for businesses that are already up and running, I would highly encourage to go through it anyway, because there's probably some steps you missed, and you're like, "Whoops!" And yeah, it's hard to tweak it when it's already built, but there could be some steps or ideas, or quite frankly, again, because it's a community type of situation, you could also become a mentor for people that are in that concept to company stage, and you can say, these are some of the things that I endured, these are some of the things that I went through, and I wish this program existed when I was launching it, because it would have saved me a lot of time and effort and headaches and Tylenol and anything else that I was using to do it. It's a critically important program from my vantage point, because again, I want businesses, especially for entrepreneurs that, want to take the risk to go do this. And I agree with you with what you said a moment ago. We are in a world where you are really, really running a risk if you are only depending on your job as your only source of income. That's dangerous. It really is. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish that employment was safe enough so you wouldn't have to worry about that, because life gives us enough stressors. But we know, and I've seen it, I've had it happen to me personally more often than I want to admit, but you're working for a company today and tomorrow you might not be, and that is extremely disruptive to you. Unless you're independently wealthy, then I'm asking why you're working, but that's another story. No, probably people that are financially well off but continue to work, it's because they enjoy the labor, they enjoy what they do. But for many, many people, probably 7 or 8 out of 10 at least, they are unfortunately really dependent on that income that comes from their job. And that's why I think it's beneficial, even if you don't have a desire to go full time into something. Find something, set it up. Yes, there's a bit of an investment of time and money and all of that, but you might end up leaving your career and going into it full time because you came across something that society wants and needs. We've seen it time and time again. Look in the history of every company. somebody did something, they thought this was a need, they bootstrapped it, they worked another job until they could do this full time and then took off, and then next you know, is a name brand item or service that we all love and enjoy. That happens time and time again. Guess what? It still happens. It will continue to happen. So if you're thinking about it, you know what? It's worth the time and effort to, to look into this program because it may be that kick in the butt that you need to go ahead and I can do this because because it's a really concise and gets to the point of this is what you got to do, this step, this step, this step, this step. It's like a recipe, quite frankly. It's like if you're making something you've never made it before, definitely rely on the recipe. Otherwise, you're going to be, after it's done and you pull it out of the oven or out of the frying pan and you put it on the plate and you look at it and you kind of take a small bite of it and then you're grabbing your phone and you're ordering DoorDash. This program will help you avoid that because your business is going to be so much stronger by doing this.
Most definitely. And you can take it from me. I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years. So I've made it through the pandemic. I've made it through, thank God. So you're learning from an individual who has been there, done that. So I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but nonetheless, I've survived entrepreneurship through the thick of it, if that makes sense, and still thriving. So like you said, it is a not only learning from me but a collective of individuals. So most definitely we want to see you guys win and and get that idea, because like you said, just to piggyback off what you said, that is absolutely right. Household names are made every day from just you know things that you would never think would take off. So so if you have that idea, don't sleep on it. You were given that idea for a reason, and there's purpose in that idea, and definitely we want to help you launch, and if not for anything, have another stream of income as we go through what was happening in our economy today, for sure.
Definitely. So I highly encourage people to take advantage of this. So, Miss Cat, love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you, this program, and anything else you want to share?
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. For those that are interested in, being connected with me, all of my socials are Connect with Miss Cat. So that's Connect, WITHMSCAT. So Connect with Miss Cat on all socials. If you go to my Instagram and DM me the word company, for everyone who is listening today, I have a special gift. I have my $1 million brand guide, where you can look like $1 million on a budget. Okay, because I know we're all trying to get our brands going and get things going. So we put together $1 million brand guide, where you can get your brand up and going for as low as $200. So I want to share that with all the listeners today. So simply go to my Instagram, Connect with Miss Cat, DM me the word company, and I'll send you that guide absolutely free. Again, just thanking you for allowing me to come on your platform and share my information to your guests
Well,
and to
thank
your
you for
listeners, rather. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that generous gift, and definitely
Mm.
I encourage everybody to take advantage of that. So, Miss Cat, thank you again for your time today. Really appreciate you and love the work you're doing.
Thank you so kindly.